Hello there, Sir from 17 once again. This is the final video in my Dark Souls 2 backstep parry practice. After I did this, I knew the technique and I pretty much didn't use it afterwards. Because, I don't know, it's one of those things where when you see people doing a lot of backsteps, you can generally tell that they're going for the backstep parry, and it just... I think it takes a lot of the fun away, because that's all they go for. They don't use it reactively, they use it prematurely to try and just get that parry and swap to that dagger and win. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's how you choose to play at that particular moment. That's just not how I like to do it. But I get a lot of comments along the lines of, you know, you make PvP look fun. You know, how do you do that? And I think everybody makes PvP look fun when you're watching them, because you don't see the behind-the-scenes stuff. You don't see the stood around for 20 minutes in between fights. You don't see the fail to connect message popping up 20 times. You don't see the getting into someone's world after 10 minutes of waiting and they either challenge the boss, pull their Ethernet cable out, or there's two phantoms with them. And fighting gank squads on this game without the right setup is incredibly difficult to do. And then there's those matches that, because the connection is not there, you just stand no chance of ever really winning. You know, you're a million miles from your opponent and they're hitting you, you're dead close to them and you're missing them. Because on their screen they're miles away from you. And it's just... I think because they mentioned the dedicated servers when the game was being advertised, we all got excited for this idealistic version of PvP where everything worked fine. And we didn't get it because the dedicated servers worked on a different part of the matchmaking. They had nothing to do with the actual fights. And even on the best connections, you can have rough fights. You just do. It's how it works. You can get two people with great connections and they can have rough fights. And people seem to think it's just, you know, oh, your internet's shit, I never get lag. But they're generally incredibly immature and ignorant people who say things like that. And you're always going to get those people because... the dumber bastards shout the loudest. But there's a good game in here, guys, there really is. It's just you have to sift through the shit to get to it. And I think on Dark Souls, the original, because it's been out so long now, there was a mixture of new players and veterans on it. So you didn't have to sift through as much of the shit. You either had the people in the forest who were ganking for the sake of being there, and you had the people in the forest invading because they wanted to fight the gankers, or you had the honor people who stood around the frequented dueling areas and you could fight them. And then if you invaded, you got a little bit of a mix. But because Dark Souls is new and it's attracted a lot of new players, and because of the way that the mechanics work now, it's a lot more difficult for the good players to differentiate themselves from the bad players. Because one hit is the difference between winning and losing, because they removed poise. And a lot of people think the new poise system is great, and I think those people are idiots. And I'm not saying that to be hurtful or hateful, and those people can be as intelligent as they want. It's just, to me, I think that mindset is broken. Because in Demon Souls, there was no poise, there was attacks that had armor on them, much like a fighting game. And the knowledge in that game came from knowing which attacks had armor on them, or toggling to get out of stunlock. And the difference between a good and a bad player on that game were the people who knew which attacks had armor on and knew how to toggle. And that might not sound like a lot to somebody who's pretty good at PvP, but it's a staggeringly different skill ceiling, because you have a player who likes to roll around and attack and have fun, and then you have a person who knows how to punish all the fun that player's having, because he has learnt that meta aspect of the game. And it's just that step above. And then in Dark Souls 1, you had the poise breakpoints, because stunlocking was such a problem in Demon Souls for the people who didn't do the toggles or didn't know about the armor, that they had to put something in to stop it from being the same issue. So they created poise, and at first nobody understood it, so the thing happened again where everybody got stunlocked and beat up, and it was horrible, and then people figured it out. So then you had another skill set of what poise break do you go to your comfort level, and do you learn the poise numbers so that you can punish people who don't have them, or people who don't know them. And immediately there was this massive distance between a player who knew his poise points and knew how poise worked to the people who didn't. And the people who didn't would get destroyed by the people who did. And then you add things like you had poise, but you also still had toggle. So if people saw that you didn't have poise, they would get lackadaisical with their swings, and they would just try and stunlock you. And if you knew that they were that kind of person, and you knew they were going to try and stunlock you, you could toggle the first hit and parry the second every single time. And it separated you from this other tier of players that couldn't do that. And that's how you get these skill, like, limit points. And Dark Souls 2 doesn't have any. Because all the backstab techniques are less important, because backstabbing is slower and it's easier to get out of. Which is a good thing, but it's also a bad thing, because backstabs were the only way to punish gank squads. Because every other attack left you vulnerable, and now every attack leaves you vulnerable. And at first I was hoping, as you've heard in previous videos, that there would be friendly fire on co-op to make people intelligently play, to even the field for an invader. But there isn't. And then there was healing that was mentioned, where invaders and hosts and phantoms, everybody can heal. Hosts can heal, phantoms can heal, invaders can heal. No, invaders can't heal, but hosts and phantoms can. So you immediately have this immensely stacked deck, where if you're not running an AoE spell, and you don't have a shit ton of stamina and a massive sword that can stunlock a bunch of people, or if you don't just go balls to the wall for the host and hope you don't get lagged away into some kind of stunlock, you will lose almost every single multiple fight situation. And even tricks from the old game don't work, like luring them into enemies and stuff like that. This guy's tearing me apart. This is a really good example of spacing and using your weapon well. Which is nice to see in the arena. Even though, you know, he might have resonant weapon on, he's gonna... Yeah, there you go. That's somebody who's played PvP before. He knows how to do the bow lures and the trades with the bow, which some people know, some people just don't. But all of that that separated good players from, you know, decent players is just gone in this game. It's all gone. And with it, all the good players have gone. And that's not to say that there's not still good players playing Dark Souls 2. I'm sure there is. It's just the difference between the good players and the bad in Dark Souls 2 is minuscule. Because latency is a thing. Everybody's using very similar builds, so they know how to fight each other, and the fights are generally the same. You know, you hit somebody and then you hit them until they die. Like right now, I'm not really giving you a compelling... But the reason is I can't do the parries with this weapon because it doesn't work the same, so that's the reason why it looks like I'm not even trying to do them anymore. But that's the thing, like, backstabs don't work the same. You know, punishing somebody with a backstab on this game is more to do with, like, luck than it ever is skill. Because how many times have you roll BS'd somebody, and when you've gone to do the backstab, that weird animation where you've got to hit them with it, he's done it on a funny angle and he's missed them. Like, he's missed them when you've been literally close enough to kiss their ass, and he's missed. And you had no control over it because the lock-on tracking is just bizarre on this game and broken. You know? It makes punishing with backstabs just not as effective. And then you have your parries. Obviously your parries have got a completely different timing window on them. On the previous game, if you missed a parry, you almost never took any more damage than you needed to take if you knew how to get out. On this game, if you miss a parry, you could be dead. Which breeds a mentality of who wants to parry when I'll just get stunlocked. Ooh, do you see that? This guy's doing what I'm doing. So this should be interesting, at least. So watch for the backsteps. See? Yeah, see? We're both doing the same thing. And it's that liberating moment of knowing that this guy is doing exactly what I'm doing. Which is kind of funny, because we're neither of us are going to land it, probably. Look, you see? He's just waiting for the run attack, waiting so he can do his fancy parry cancel. And these are the people that really fucking suck, because I'm trying to mix it into my playstyle, trying to learn to see if it's viable, and this dude is just doing nothing but it. And you're just like, come on, dude. If you're going to do it, at least, you know, fight and do it. Don't just do that and nothing else. And he's trying to, look at him. And there's his, I think he did that by mistake. Look, he's even coming to me, waiting for me to hit him to try and bait it out. Like these are the people that people hate, I think, when this technique was in its heyday. Players who do what this guy does. where he's not even trying to engage me, he's just trying to get that parry move. But I think he's learning now that either he's shit at it or I'm not taking the bait. Jump attack, Chris. You know what he's going to do, just jump attack him. Jump attack! Yay! There you go. Sometimes I'm stupid when I play, I don't know why. Oh, boy! Is that... Did I use a different weapon to get that? Oh, it changed before I could see what it was. If that wasn't the Monastery Scimitar, I'm quite proud of that one. But I think it was. So... This is your stereotypical arena player. He's wearing very big armor, which gives him massive defense. He's wearing Resonant Soul on a... That looks like the Sun Sword. And he's got an Evelyn. That is pretty much 90% of the players that you will fight in the arena. And if that doesn't sound like fun to you, which, like, why would it? Then don't fight here, because that's all you get, almost every time. And it's kind of funny because normally on these games, at this point they would have already established an area where you could go to have fights that didn't, you know, well, I say that didn't involve people wearing all the overpowered shit. But I don't think that's even been established yet. The only real places I know of are the bridge, which is an absolute clusterfuck because it's one of the worst surfaces to fight on, and it benefits ranged attacks over everything, so, you know, it's too closeted to really have it any good for melee, and then too long for anything but range. Like, I hate fighting on that bridge. And there's a ton of super cool areas that just don't seem to get used. Like the area where the Pursuer drops down in Forest of Fallen Giants, or the area where the King's Door is in Forest of Fallen Giants, where the two red phantoms are on New Game Plus. That's a fantastic place to fight. That guy's impressed with his victory. Does his little, oh no, 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 no taunt. Which is what all the good players use, as you can see. Oh! Parries the roll attack with the back step. And it's at this point when I realised that it's a pretty powerful technique, and it is. You know, anybody telling you that the parry backstep isn't powerful doesn't know or hasn't done it, because it is. But it's gone now, so we can rejoice that you're not going to see people just doing nothing but it. You're going to hopefully fight people who want to fight. Like, this guy's using interesting weapons. He's got the... Is it the arc sword or the curved sword? It's the thing that the Flexile Sentry has. And you can create from his soul. And this person here is doing some interesting backstepping. He's got... Is that an offhand washing pole? He's got quite a lot of weapons. Oh, and we get him again. It's just too easy sometimes. Especially with this. Like, any other curved sword, it's tough to get that parry. But with this one, it's immediate. Ooh, I remember this guy. So this is a dude who does nothing but jump attacks. And I don't think you can parry jump attacks on this game, which you couldn't on the old one. And normally he's got the ring of Gao's ring of protection on his back, which he's just put on then. Do you see? He put it on while he was being backstabbed. And all he does is jump. Jumps with Gao's on. Just jumps at you. So I fought him a few times, and the first time I fought him, I was trying to do the parries, and I think he killed me with like 3 jump attacks. And the reason it's not in the video is because I've trimmed out all the super quick ones, which didn't really showcase me trying to do the parries. And then the next time I fought him was this one. So I knew all he was going to do was jump at me. So I was just going to roll, and I was just going to try and backstab him. And I think the third time I fight him, I was just throwing consumables that break your shit, so I could try and break his ring. And eventually, he started to try and fight back, but it was just one of those boring fights, so I've probably not included it in this either, because a lot of these have been trimmed, because, I don't know, there's just something about this game. A 5-minute fight with somebody that you win after chasing them is something that I would have probably kept in on Dark Souls 1, but on this game it's just boring. Like, who enjoys watching somebody chase a coward? Nobody. On Dark Souls 1 it made sense, on this game it just doesn't. So, this is your standard R1 Stunlocker guy, who's also throwing consumables. He's throwing the holy water at me, which is nice to see. He's bashing buttons though, because all he wants to do is chop me down, which you can't blame him, because look how effective it is. And once again, you know, I have a problem with this game, because even when I win decisively, I don't feel like I'm any good. On Dark Souls 1, when I won decisively, I felt like I was a good player. I felt like I was learning, and like the things that I was learning were making me a better player. On this game, I don't even feel like I won. And I think that's my main problem with it. And I'm hoping that when the DLC comes out, it's going to change some of the more, major parts of the game. Because when I was watching the interviews, it mentioned that they were going to be doing some changes. I don't think he mentioned patches, he just meant changing the way the game worked to fit the DLC. And if you remember, when Artorias of the Abyss DLC came out, it changed everything. That patch was probably one of the most prolific patches ever, because it fixed, and I use the term fixed liberally here, the Darkwood Grain Ring, and it changed a ton of stuff. It slowed weapon swings down. It was a massive patch, and I think he made a mistake then. And I'm hoping when the DLC comes that there's going to be a massive patch that lands that's going to make the game fun and competitive, because as it stands, there's no skill to winning, and I think that's my major problem with it. And that's not me speaking as somebody who can't get wins, because I think the truth that we can all admit to here is it's a little too easy to win on this game, and it shouldn't be. You should have to earn it, and you don't. But thank you very much for watching, guys, and as always, you take care now.